When did meeting a friend for one drink start needing a budget? Not a big night, not dinner for six, just fancy a pint after work? The average pint is now £5.34. In London, it is £6.55. That is the price on the board. The real price is the freedom it represents. It's not a story about beer. But the beer now tells us a story about how our lives have changed silently. Inflation. It's supposed to have calmed down. It's true, it has. But the aftermath it left was chaos. Ordinary life still feels wildly expensive. What we earn hasn't kept up with inflation. Inflation slowing does not mean prices go back down. That's deflation. The news would go wild if there was deflation. Prices are still sitting crazily high compared to before. The average price of draft lager rose from £4.10 in 2022 to £4.77 in 2024. That is an absurdly high increase for just 2 years. Inflation is better now is very far detached from looking at the £6.50 pint and deciding whether to have one or go home. A pint is a tiny receipt for the whole business economy. Inside it is the beer, but also the electricity keeping the cellar cold, rent, business rates, staff wages, insurance, and the quiet Tuesday when the place is half empty, but all those bills still keep coming through. A pub sells a limited number of drinks in limited hours from a building that costs money whether it is full or not. Think of it like splitting a taxi fare. If 4 friends get in, it is manageable. If only one gets in, that person is paying for the whole journey. When fewer people go out because it is expensive, the costs end up being higher. They get spread over fewer pints, and the price of a pint has to become heavier. That creates a miserable little loop. Prices rise because costs rise. People cut back because prices rise. The pub gets quieter. The cost of staying open is then carried by fewer customers. Prices rise again. It's an endless vicious cycle that spins faster and harder the longer it goes on for. The customer is not wrong to think twice, but equally, the pub owner is not wrong to charge more. They aren't necessarily making a fortune. The things that used to be casual are becoming occasions. 1 drink becomes 2, then the bus home, maybe food because you came straight from work. Suddenly, the harmless midweek catch-up is 20 or 30 quid. For lots of people, it's a reasonable expectation. It's also a reasonable expectation to expect that to increase slightly next year. But now, it is competing every time with the food shop, a child's club, a train fare, or the bit of savings you were trying not to touch. Because the increase is out of control. This is what I call an affordability crisis. But nobody in the media seems to see it this way. They seemingly don't really care that much. If it's not a financial crash where asset values suddenly fall down a hole, it's not as interesting. So there's less coverage. But for the ordinary person, this is what their personal crash feels like. 100 small calculations that make decisions harder and choices narrower. The same feeling turns up in a coffee, a haircut, taking the kids somewhere, a taxi in the rain, or a friend's birthday meal. These are the ordinary things that we work for. Our family, social connections, and enjoyment of life. When they become hard to justify, people do not only spend less, they see people less. They stay home more. They start treating connection as a luxury item. And that becomes a much bigger loss than the price of a pint. You can feel irresponsible for spending money on something enjoyable, as if the sensible response is to remove every bit of joy from the budget. But the answer is not to tell yourself that every social plan is reckless, nor is it to pretend the price does not matter. The useful question is, what are you trying to protect that matters most? If seeing friends once a week genuinely keeps you going, it belongs in the plan. Maybe it becomes one planned drink rather than an open-ended evening. Maybe you meet earlier, rotate houses, or choose the thing you actually value rather than automatically paying for the biggest markup. That is not a lecture about packed lunches. It is about deciding where your shrinking room to breathe goes. A bit of sacrifice to keep the valuable connections you have. Affordability is not only whether you can technically pay. It is whether you can say yes to normal life without feeling financially reckless. That is why a £5.34 pint matters. It is a small number carrying a much bigger question. How much of an ordinary life can ordinary earnings still buy? The price of going out is not just rising on a board behind the bar. It is rising in the number of times people quietly decide not to go.